How 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 do you get everything so wrong? How do you manage to take a franchise that has a very good reputation at this point, having two movies that were successful and praised, and then you decide to just plummet off a cliff? Reeves deserved better than that. Now, last time, when I first started diving into these movies on my other channel, I outright refused to talk about the other two, because I knew from word of mouth that they were pretty much trash. But I knew that if I didn't talk about them at some point, I would have to end up talking about them later. So, screw it, we're gonna do it now, so we can just forget these things ever existed. Let's start with garbage pile number 1, shall we? What's up? What's happening? What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Animation Station, your message for anything and everything animation, including TV and movies as well. I am your host, Jackson Small. Welcome back to DC Live Volume 2. Welcome to my review of the pile of absolute garbage that is Superman 3. I mean, I've heard for years about how this is a really bad movie, and yet I was still shocked by how bad it was when I finally watched it. This is not going to be a fun review. Now, if you enjoy this movie, that's fine. We all have preferences. But this is going to be a very negative review. So, if that kind of thing upsets you, don't watch this video. Okay? Continue to like whatever you want to like. This is just my personal preference on it. Here's my review. It's not a very long one, but I hope you enjoy anyway. Last time I outright refused to talk about the other two Superman sequels because I pretty much already knew from word of mouth that both of these movies were absolutely terrible. But I know that I'd still have to review them at some point anyway, so screw it. Let's just get this over with so I can go back to forgetting these two ever existed. Let's start with trash bag number 1. Pros. Some of the concepts were interesting ideas, like having this weird substance that turns Superman into the opposite of what he usually is, like being a jerk and causing damage, like pretty much being Zod in a way. That's a really interesting idea. Or during one of the final scenes in the movie, having the good Clark Kent versus the evil Superman. In like a physical and metaphorical kind of battle between good and evil. Very interesting idea. Problem is, they pissed all over it. Superman acting like a bad guy is unintentionally hilarious. Like, that's one of the reasons why it doesn't work, because Superman trying to act like a bad guy, it's not intimidating or frightening. It's just funny. It's emo Peter before emo Peter existed. This was the original emo Peter, and just like emo Peter, he's a meme. Reeves is still good as Superman. Reeves is still good in his role. Like, he still understands the assignment even if everyone around him is just farting around. And the robot transformation scene is easily the best part of the entire movie. That scene, as brief as it is, was the one moment where my jaw was on the ground, like, whoa, okay, damn, we're doing that? Okay, that was horrifying for a movie that's supposed to be family-friendly. But then, there's everything else. The storytelling is inexcusably lousy and lazy. Richard Pryor in this movie is ridiculously unfunny. And I fault this more on the writers than him, because he himself can be funny. He's a really good comedian. But for whatever reason, in this movie, the writers did not allow him to write or ad-lib his own material. Instead, they tried to write stuff for him, and it's some of the cringiest, most unfunny, terrible jokes you will ever hear in any superhero movie. Yes, even worse than modern MCU. It is that bad. So I feel bad for Pryor. I don't blame Pryor. I blame the terrible writing. Speaking of that writing, it is horrendous. Cheesiness is turned up to ridiculous degrees and pretty much throws all the adult, serious moral complexity of the past two movies out of the window. It's still way too long. The action is atrocious. This is when they started giving it less and less of a budget. The effects are awful. Like, outside of that robot scene, the effects in this movie are terrible. Even for the time period, they were terrible. And rewatchability is non-existent. I never want to watch this again. Overall, this one's just as bad, if not even worse, than you've already heard about. Sure, 4 is the worst one, but that's not saying much when this is still this atrociously bad. In other words, final verdict is a 2 out of 10. Skip it. Watch the robot transformation scene on the internet and bask in the Reeves being evil memes, and then, aside from that, pretend this movie doesn't exist. Because it's not worth remembering. And we have one more. But thankfully we don't have to talk about that till tomorrow. So we can take a small break, because now we have to return back to the animated side for the second movie in the Tomorrowverse. See you next time for Justice Society World War II.
We cannot take it anymore. The time has come to go. Prepare to fight, we're ready for this. I really hope that I'm ready for this.